Teletubbies have officially sucked me dry. Either they have made me want to discontinue my nostalgic tape review series in general, or I just need to take a break for a while. If you call writing, recording, audio editing, visual editing, downloading, reducing, and uploading another hour-plus long video a break, and talk about something smaller, something memorable that was in all of the tapes and discs we had, something that still remains etched on the back of your mind even after so many years. Nostalgic company logos. Yes, I'm actually going to tell you all my views on every single production logo that started or ended every childhood viewing that I can remember. Each company, each of their logos in order, and then the next company. Some of them will be wonderful, some of them will be questionable, and some are childhood nightmares, honestly. Let's get started. Starting off with an oldie but a goodie. The corporation's mascot and the literal face for the company in his iconic apprentice costume he only wore just one time, using his magic to write in the air the signature from the man who made the studio. Pretty nice homage to the man. The painting of Mickey looks nice, the sparkle is animated really well, the text is in this memorable hot pink color. It's all good all the way up to the little twinkle on the walnut scribble on top of the eye. My only real negative about this logo is the way it starts. It's in pitch black and silent for a few seconds when the floor lights up in a deep dark blue, while a creepy and sinister sounding synthesizer note builds up. Mickey is seen coming out of the shadows of the black void like a horror villain. Still, motionless, not doing anything, until the burst of magic comes out of his hat and the more pleasant music starts playing. As a kid, I must have been way more squeamish than I thought. I mean, if this shot of Ratigan scared me so much to the point of not wanting to watch the final few minutes of The Great Mouse Detective back then, you can bet a still character emerging from the shadows with creepy synth music would. Also, while I'm here, I have to ask, did anyone else see anything resembling a D in Walt Disney's signature? Well, now that I'm sitting down and actually looking at this logo... Oh, okay, there's the D. After nearly 30 years of living, I could never see a D. It always looked more like a flipped around capital G, or the number 6, or a toddler scribbling down what he thinks a music note looks like. Since most signatures from people look like indecipherable scribbles, you wouldn't really blame me or any other kid back then, right? This one may or may not seem all too familiar with most of my audience. This is the logo UK Disney videotapes would have throughout the 90s. You can tell it's from the 90s because of the bright, bold colors and crooked, simple shapes that you would find on most fashionable t-shirts back then. And the parts you would think are 2D in the final form, except for the Disney signature, appear on screen in a three-dimensional way. The white square flips around, the Disney text falls in from the ceiling, the videos banner rolls out like a fruit winder, even down to the text and black circles having shadows underneath them. I'm also looking at this eye scribble again. I compared it to a walnut earlier, but now I see the head of a cartoon baby crying or something. My mind is just messed up, especially as a kid. You have no idea. Whee! Oh, hello. Do I go there? Woo! This is an older version of the same logo, but I strangely never saw it on any Disney tapes as a kid. The 90s releases and re-releases I had all had the later one from 1995. I only ever saw this version of the logo first as a single shot from a Lady and the Tramp promotion, and at the very beginning of my DVD of the Aristocats. Yeah, the Disney Videos logo on a Disney DVD. A bit backwards, don't you think? Well, it's a bit different. The background has two faded colors, and it has a texture. The pointless purple rectangle, indicating the next logo to come, flies in as 100 tiny cubes. It reminds me of the Allspark, and the rest of the logo comes in the same way as before, only the square at the top is changed from white to a tealish green. I think I honestly prefer this version of the logo over the later one, not only because it looks nicer to me, looking a bit more three-dimensional, but the moment the logo stops moving fits in with the big music boom at the end, whereas the other one just stops and shines moments before the boom. So even though I'm less nostalgic for this older variant, I prefer it over the later one. Now, the story of how I remember this logo is a bit weird. I'm assuming this logo was used for the Disney direct-to-video sequel slop they released all throughout the 90s and 2000s. You know, Return of Jafar, The King of Thieves, Pocahontas 2, Hunchback 2, etc. Thankfully, my childhood wasn't exposed to most of that useless cash grab phase of Disney. Well, the first one, anyway. So the only tape that I had with this logo was Winnie the Pooh's Most Grand Adventure. One of the best and most underrated kids movies I've ever seen, if you ask me. I also had The Jungle Book 2, specifically on VHS 2, but that one didn't have this logo. Weird. Anyway, the logo itself? It's alright. The letters spelling video premiere slide in from the viewer's perspective as long, thin strips, and then they turn around three-dimensionally, probably to show off their impressive new CGI technology. Then Walt's signature comes in with a little sparkle on the eye scribble, and it just holds there for 5 seconds. It's short, but decent enough. It looks different from the previous ones at least, and it provides the unique information just fine. The shortest logo so far, and it's the least animated one, but that doesn't mean it's lifeless. Walt's signature shines in front of a bright light, then the light moves to form a gold-crafted shine symbol, while home entertainment just randomly fades in underneath, while an angelic choir presents the logo's golden shining majesty as it flies through the beautiful night sky. I was thinking that the sparkle bit of the logo was meant to represent the sparkle trail above the castle seen in the company's opening logo, but that is usually taller and more rounded. Now that I'm really looking at it, it looks more like the sunlight peeking over the surface of the Earth from space. Well, I mean, we are in an endless black sky with hundreds of stars. The sparkle over the Earth could signify how Disney as a corporation was on top of the world by 2001, and even the night stars could represent all of the IPs they have created and own, each star representing a beloved classic character you have constantly seen on merchandise and t-shirts. I'm already reading way too deep into home media commercials, and this is only the 5th one of like 150 or something. Well, even though this logo isn't really as memorable as the first 2 Disney Videos ones, it's still majestic enough to be loved by somebody in the world. We all know this one, the logo that begins every movie on DVD. Although I think it would have made more sense to play this the instant you've put the disc into the system. Then the logo can show you the item you have purchased, and then play the previews and trailers for you to see what kind of content you are in for. Instead of just appearing after you have already seen everything, you've hit play, and then you just want to watch the movie. Anyway, this one is great. A trail of sparkles creating the big bold letters of D, V, D. Slowly, in time with the whimsical background music, then it creates the iconic disc with the signature, then the product's tagline all in shining silver, and then the magical trail is revealed to be Tinkerbell, one of the corporation's many famous mascots. That explains how the logo was created. And it's kinda weird to think that this was their CGI Tinkerbell model a few years before the Fairies spin-off series of movies. Was it possible that they were going to make another direct-to-DVD Peter Pan sequel or prequel, but in CGI or something? I mean, if the rumors are correct, they were going to make a CG Snow White sequel, and who knows if any of their other rightfully cancelled sequels would have been CGI animated or digitally drawn like most of the others. But this is still a great logo to introduce the world into the superior, more powerful, better sounding, more visually stunning world of DVDs to the child audience. This was a reanimated version of the same logo that was used on discs in 2009 or something. It has the same music as the older one, including the sparkling booms. There are some wispy wind trails that slowly form the D of the silver signature logo. The D spins around in circles a couple times until it eventually decides to show the name. The big DVD letters just quickly swoop in from out of nowhere, complete with additional swooshing sounds. Some different looking sparkles created the disc part of the logo. The new tagline, carved in a silver banner, rises up like a jug being filled up with water, and then Tinkerbell flies in for a camera shot again, only this time she is traditionally hand-drawn, along with the aforementioned disc sparkles as well. That's the better look for her. I mean, this company was made famous for its hand-drawn animated films for the longest time, so it's best to represent the DVD re-releases of these classic films, and more to come, with the traditionally animated version of one of their mascots. But even though it has a big fancy logo animation and the better looking Tinkerbell, I honestly prefer the original version. Not only does the music fit in better with the visuals accompanying the form of each letter, whereas the new one hardly shows anything to fit in with the music. But the slow reveal of each letter intrigues the viewer, unaware of DVDs, of what this new form of watching films can be. The music building up, more of the logo is formed, and it explodes into whimsical excitement as it shows a new version of a childhood character that we have never seen before. This is me basically over-explaining that I prefer the original version. And I'm also gonna look at the animation studios' logos as well, because, well, when am I ever going to talk about them outside of this video? Starting with this classic one, which I was surprised to find out was first used in 1985. It surprised me because it was always shown at the beginning of all of the classic 60s, 70s Disney films that I had on VHS, including my Aristocats DVD from 2001. So I always assumed that they had this specific logo since the late 60s. I mean, knowing Disney, they may have had the budget and technical know-how to make it in the 60s. But apparently it was never used in the original theatrical releases of The Jungle Book, The Sword in the Stone, or The Aristocats. It was actually first used in The Black Cauldron, I think. They do say 1985. Who doesn't remember this logo? The whimsical music starting as some magical force slowly creates the 80s slotted version of Cinderella's castle. Then a huge bright glow makes Walt's signature appear as it plays a bit of When You Wish Upon a Star from Pinocchio. And as the finishing touch, a little sparkle trail, presumably Tinkerbell, flies over the castle and forming a sphere, kinda like a force field, as the music ends with the joyous little First of all, how many of you, growing up watching all of these films as little kids, knew that they were playing When You Wish Upon a Star here? I didn't. I thought that it was just an original piece made specifically for the logo. I did have Pinocchio on VHS back then, but I guess I didn't rewatch it enough times to recognize the song that opens up and ends the movie, especially when it plays with different instruments and at a slightly faster pace. And second, I've always been told that the castle that always represents the Walt Disney Pictures logo was the one from Cinderella. Is it? As I am looking at screenshots from that original film, there's kinda a resemblance to it, though in the film the castle is much taller. But anyway, it's still a classic logo with a classic nostalgic vibe. You can't hate this one. This version of the logo was made by Pixar ever since the release of Toy Story, and they decided to have this one be the one to begin all of their films until Wall-E. You can tell that they were showing us their true power of computer animation with this one. Instead of the castle forming through magic in a two-dimensional way, we fly through the castle from the draw gate and showcasing the full 3D model they have recreated before stopping at its usual camera shot. And even the text reveal and then the sparkling effect was done more three-dimensionally. And since this was Pixar, they decided to have the music be an actual original little composition from Randy Newman during the making of Toy Story, instead of using an already existing popular Disney song. This may not be as popular as the older 85 logo, but it honestly shows you how much effort and detail Pixar would showcase into their films. And the last Disney logo I saw on home media was this one from 2008, and it truly is a grand spectacle. It begins with a familiar shot of the wishing star through a cloudy sky. Then the camera goes downwards to reveal the huge scale of the land below. It's either some original fantasy town, or it could be Disneyland, given the many buildings with lights, the pirate ship, and the steam locomotive, all of them being key elements of the parks. And when the music hits its highest note, our view is obscured by the flag at the peak of the famous Cinderella castle, and the fireworks explode all over, not only showing us the colorful, beautiful detail on them, but a sweeping view of the castle in all of its glory, and all the while a grand emotional rendition of When You Wish Upon a Star is orchestrated. and the camera settles down on a straight view of the structure. The music quiets down for Tinkerbell to form the familiar round orb of magic, and for us to take in the spectacle we had just watched. But then the music builds up one more time and peaks when the company's text twinkles in. Now that's a modern day upscale if I ever saw one. This may be my favorite one of the company's logos, but I have one or two notes. Firstly, there's just a man-made river running through the castle gates. If this is meant to be Cinderella's castle, then how is she with her carriage or anyone else meant to enter the castle for the ball? Secondly, why did they decide to change the text in the logo in the 2010s from Walt Disney Pictures to just Disney? I mean, the opening visuals make it very clear as to which company this is, but this is like if the DreamWorks logo just read DW, or if Illumination's logo just said I. It's just a bit too simplified for me. And I know that this is just a me problem, but I still never recognized the Pinocchio song in the entirety of this 30-second logo at any point as a kid. I swear, I have watched that original movie enough times to realize how majorly the Robert Zemeckis remake fucked all of it up.
Go ahead, make a fool of yourself.
But When You Wish Upon a Star isn't really that memorable of a song to me when compared to others from the film. I know it has become the theme song for the company for some reason, but I didn't seem to fully remember that song back then as much as Give a Little Whistle, Hi Diddly Dee, or There Are No Strings on Me. If you don't have Jiminy Cricket singing its lyrics, then I won't be able to recognize it. Sorry.
When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true.
That is not what I meant. And while we're here, let's talk about Pixar's logo. Using their little character, Luxo Jr., from one of their earliest shorts, hopping around off the table and into the outside world. The curious little guy notices the letters spelling out the studio's name, and being a little scamp, decides to bounce on the letter I, just like he did on one of the balls he had. But then he bounces too high and ends up flattening the I. He looks around all scared and confused, and then looks at the camera with a, sorry expression to him, and unknowingly looking like a lowercase I. This might be my favorite movie studios logo. Coincidentally, from one of my favorite movie studios. For now. It's innocent, charming, playful, and it doesn't even need any music to entice you. Just a fun little character with an enjoyable personality, like those in most of the studio's films. And who didn't get surprised over the Wall-E variant? I did when I saw it in one of the trailers. The logo proceeds as normal, but then, just at the very end, the character building that Luxo is blind when the bulb is off, and Wall-E just comes in out of nowhere just wanting to help him. This kind of reminds me of those little clips of him interacting with an Earth object in a white void. He just so happens to have a new light bulb in his compactor compartment, instead of it being crushed with all the rest of the rubbish, and as soon as the job is done, he accidentally knocks over the R of the logo logo, and he decides to make things up by becoming the R himself, not only showing the gimmick that Luxo does, but it also shows off the clumsy but innocent side of Wall-E's character. It truly shows you what he's about before you have even seen the movie in the trailer, or after the end credits when it's all over. I love it. Oh yeah, there was also a Toy Story 4 variant of the logo, but that movie doesn't deserve to honor Pixar's legacy when it pisses all over the movie series it was pointlessly continuing off from. Oh god. We have now come to the first logo in this video that creeped me out when I was a kid. You have read this yellow and blue text that you couldn't read when you were younger. It's all silent. When suddenly, this loud high-pitched synthesizer attacks your senses with some unfamiliar white lines darting in the middle of the screen, and two fields of colorful energy rectangles then fly towards the star. Once the star is formed, the more booming synth notes are added, and then a huge orange V swoops in with a big energy trail and a loud whooshing noise. You would think that things would lighten up a bit and be more friendly when some more white lines form the company's text and the music becomes more diddery. But then it stops. The color is drained from the screen, and a bright light creeps in from the center star, and you hear an unnerving synth rise. That kind that makes you think that there's an evil monster sneaking up behind you. But then it suddenly stops as you see the finished form of the logo. And then the tape is like, "Oh, sorry for scaring you like that. Here's your regularly scheduled Postman Pat tape." And you would think that that would be the end of the tape scaring you, as you sit there and enjoy 3 charming episodes about a postman and his cat. Well, after the harmless end credits, right after Pat finishes humming his own theme, the scary synth rises back up so suddenly and harmfully booms into your head. I thought I was done with you. I just had a nice peaceful time in Greendale. Don't take it all away from me and give me more nightmares. The logo then reverses, erasing all of the white lines until there is only the star. And then the synth creepily rises again, but this time the piece becomes unnerving and saddening at the same time, weirdly enough. As the star is erased away, there is a blue light representing the soul of the tape, and then the final note cries out as a different white light takes it away into the pitch blackness, almost as if you are sad to see it go. That fucking logo made me so uneasy as a young'un that I always had vivid memories of the scarily booming synth music or visions of the lights at the end, and that I don't want to see them go. So this has become the most bafflingly creepy logo as a result. Even in the present day, when I was doing research for this video, this logo's horrors doesn't even stop at my childhood. I discovered that there was one specific tape that had the goal to start the scary rising synth music of the logo before the end credits have even finished. Are you kidding me? They didn't play the music when the tape started, so did you really have to creep football fans out by suddenly playing it mid-credits and then end on an eerie freeze frame? And even though I had never seen them on any tapes as a kid, I feel like I should mention the earlier versions of this logo. They may have way better, grander, and more bearable music, but ironically, the scary synth theme fits in a lot better with the intro's visuals. The first few notes perfectly match the speed and movements of the white lines forming the star, and then the 8 booming notes when the V appears, and then the letters match up with the same as in the ending version. You know what I'm saying. The older theme and its many renditions just don't really match up with the visuals they decided to create. So, in a cruel twist of irony, I have to give the points to the version that dared me not to touch these Postman Pat tapes again. But if you think that this logo couldn't scare you any further than it already did, you have definitely never watched the Watch with Mother tapes they released. I didn't, but when I did years later, this was what I saw. This, honest to God, looks like the start of a horror film or a creepypasta. The bright liveliness is diminished with the new music. The music itself, I get that it's meant to replicate an old music box your mother or grandma used to have, but in today's common mindset, after horror films like It 1 and 2 and Paranormal Activity, hearing that kind of music is usually used for intentional horror, like a big blood-covered clown murderer is stepping out of the shadows of the abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza with a knife, about to stab you at super speed with a giant, unnaturally extended smile full of razor-sharp teeth. That kind of horror mindset also helps when the whole screen loses all of its color. Something you have never seen happen on a tape before, and you feel uneasy, like something sinister is about to happen once the music ends. Now I know it turned all black and white to fit in with the lack of color from those old 50s and 60s programs the tapes had, but still, seeing all of the color being drained away from the logo feels so unsettling, like there's something wrong with it. I am done talking about this logo, okay? It's just creeping me out even as I am editing this footage, and the Watch with Mother versions just makes me not want to sleep tonight. Just move on already, will you? Strangely, in spite of all of the tapes my family had, I had never owned any of them that had the next logo. You know, the one where a world map three-dimensionally forms into a globe, looking like the screen from old BBC One broadcasts, accompanied by Indian drums. Yeah, I'm gonna skip that one because I never saw it as a kid, so we'll move on to the logo after that one. You've most likely seen this one before. I have heard an endless amount of internet people agree that this is the scarier one of the BBC video logos. People, did you even see the logo that I had spent the past 5 minutes describing in unnecessary detail? The 90s logo looks like nothing compared to the 80s logo. This new logo never scared me as a kid. Never. Well, it hardly ever scared me. Maybe it's because the tapes that were attached to it were a lot more innocent and child-friendly, like Pingu or Noddy, but I think definitively the fact that it is only 10 seconds long, just one animation, just one music cue, and it just repeats the same thing at the end of the tapes, whereas the older one is double the length, has scarier music, unnerving visuals, and it creeps in with another 20-second logo at the end of your charming innocent little Ivor the Engine tape, all totaling up to 40 seconds of unintentional creepiness. I don't even think the music cue in this 90s logo is that scarily booming. I mean, yeah, it bangs in on screen after 2 silent warning screens with 2 unexplained colourful lines flying in against the same black background as those warning screens, and then the BBC letter squares just eerily emerge from the shadows, shrouded in them, and then after the music ends, you can just hear some faint, harsh wind or breath sound for a few seconds. But the music actually sounds more proud and inviting. Plus, I've always imagined the final 3 notes saying BBC when the letters appear. BBC. So I never found this logo scary, unlike the rest of the internet. What I did find scary, though, was the version of the logo from the 5 Doctors tape from Doctor Who. It's all playing out like normal when... What the fuck is that thing? I never saw this specific tape as a kid, but if I did, this would have made me want to eject it and throw it out of the bin in fear. Like, imagine if this happened on a Pingu tape. You were watching the logo as it usually was, but then the demon walrus from that infamous Nightmare episode comes out of the shadows, grabs the logo, eats it, and then goes back into the black background. That is what watching the start of the 5 Doctors feels like. Some scary synth music creeps in after the usual theme, while a mysterious trapezium you have no idea about yet just appears from the top of the screen, flipping around in a crooked, unnerving way. Then it sucks the logo into itself, forever trapped in its own solid void, and then flies away before you can process anything. It's like the next time you will watch this opening, the trapezium will fly crookedly out of the screen and then come to trap you in its own void. Especially since that's exactly what it does to various companions and versions of the Doctor throughout the timeline. There were kids who were watching Doctor Who tapes, like this one in the 90s. Don't scare them behind the sofa before the show has even started. That's more like it. This logo is just beautiful. A lovely little string instrument plays a soothing little jingle as some long strips of ribbons represented in the same 3 colors as the previous logo wave gracefully against a navy blue background. It makes a nice change from the usual pitch black void of nothingness. A couple of things I imagined about this logo as I was a kid. One, I could never decipher what these colorful strips were back then, so I just came to the conclusion that they were smoke trails coming out of a cigarette put in reverse or something. It actually could have been smoke trails, or it could be ribbon strips. No one really knows. And I always imagine that the final 4 notes of the song when the logo fades in was the song singing the BBC. The BBC. I don't know, there's more notes in this tune than in the 90s logo, so much so that it's the kind that you can put lyrics into. I'm reading so deep into 10-second long logos that I might as well be at the Earth's core. I'm putting this logo on the list because it is nostalgic to me. The only time I saw it was in 2010 on the Doctor Who Series 5 box set, with the new logo suddenly bursting to life when I was expecting the older one from the Series 4 DVDs, and it threw me out for a loop. Back then, I was like, oh wow, they've made a new logo to welcome in the new Doctor? Neato. But the logo itself? It's one of the better ones. The colors of exploding rings quickly emerge from the black void, lighting the whole place up to reveal a purple rectangle in the center, while some smooth and calming synth music lifts you into the air. The collection of rings and circles explode all around you, but acting more like beautiful fireworks than anything sinister. And they even interact with the logo inside the rectangle, making it look more 3-dimensional than it actually is. I must say, and I've only come to this realization just now, I feel like this is a modern-day remake of the scary 80s logo. It emerges from a pitch black background, it's full of color, the logo is in the middle, even down to it using synthesizer notes. But the new one is actually welcoming, beautiful, and instead of bringing you nightmares before the content has even started, it truly lets you know that you'll be in for a good time. And given the discs that I had,
your girlfriend isn't more important than the whole universe.
She is to me!
it's not wrong. What is it with 80s logos giving the little kids nightmares before the tape even starts? And that's saying a lot because the only time I saw this logo was on the Munitions pilot tape. You see a quickly animated moving floor against some sped up footage of clouds in the sky. You're unnerved by it already since neither of them fit in with each other. But then a scary sounding electric guitar note blasts out as the sky moves away from you in a lifeless grey background. The animated white floor slows down and eventually stops the further it flies away. Creepy. And then at the end, you notice that there was some text hiding behind the skybox. You're trying to read what the company's logo says, when suddenly, dramatic music screams at you as the skybox unexpectedly opens up to reveal a threatening white light that consumes the entire logo, disappears, and then it leaves us with the grey void for a second or two, before fading to black. What made them decide to make their logo jump scare the little kids who just wanted to see a nice little new show about talking tugboats? I mean, how are we supposed to see that the box was going to split apart to reveal a jumping light? And the music they play is exactly the kind of music someone would use for a horror movie jump scare. You think the munitions episode would scar me when I saw the fiery massacre for the first time? Well, the tape already scared me around 13 minutes earlier with the tape's logo jump scaring me. So, funny story, I originally thought that this logo was for an Australian video distributor, because the only place I saw it was on this specific tape with 3 short films about Australian engines and railroads. But it turns out it's actually a British distributor, because the series of tapes that the logo is from was mostly about British railways and engines, with just a handful of tapes taking us into foreign railways. The Festiniog Railway in Wales, the Glacier Express in Switzerland, and yes, Australia's mainline problems and demanding for the government to make it more streamlined. Seriously, A Steam Train Passes is a must-watch for railway enthusiasts. It's one of the greatest short films I have ever seen.
A Steam Train Passes is generally regarded as Australia's finest railway film and winner of many awards the world over. It's all about the journey of the 3801 and traces back to the year of its birth. With superb photography, this unique video is a true collector's piece of filmmaking.
As for the logo, it's... alright. I mean, the copyright screen is on the same background as the logo, so it seamlessly flows into each other with no fade transitions. The music is catchy enough, it has a good beat, and it lasts for a good 20 seconds. The whooshing type of drum thingy they were using sounds a bit too aggressive though, when the logo flies into your face. But the logo animations are obviously very two-dimensional, just bits of the logo flying in circles around the grey painted wall of a background with no real pattern or flow. The text boxes show you how unbelievably flat the logo is, while a cyan green line spins around from one side of the screen to the other like an uncontrollable lightsaber. Also, the sequence starts off with the text already on the grey boxes, but when each one shoves themselves up close to your face, invasion of privacy, the text suddenly disappears on the second turn. But then we see the text had pulled themselves off of the boxes, only to stick themselves back on again. Well, what was the point of that? At least there's a sudden black reverse tick shape to stick the text on once and for all, like 2 pieces of duct tape, and the spinning green line has reproduced and finished the logo with its 3 children. I personally think the logo is better off without the green lines. They look too bright compared to everything else on the screen, and it makes the logo look too busy or too detailed. The inverted colored text from the duct tape line is stylish enough. For this one, I'm basically going to be repeating what I said at the beginning of... Okay, I'm just now starting to question whether these fetish references were intentional or not. This awful video from 6 years ago. Good Jesus, it's been that long since this particular style of video series? Once again, the copyright screen is in total silence for a solid 15 to 20 seconds, and then, without any warning, build-up, or transitions, a loud rock guitar screams into your ears while a rapidly spinning logo with a vapor trail flies straight into your face with no concept of personal space, creeping you out something fierce, only to then screw off to be really tiny and harmless at the top left corner of the screen, and then the rest of the logo slides in complete silence, making you reflect on what the flying hell the tape just shouted at you. I'm aware that there's a version of this logo where some piano music plays when the blue text appears. But that was never what I saw as a kid. I always got the silent treatment. What makes this logo irredeemable to me is how loud and sudden it is. I mean, the copyright screen doesn't have the same color as the logo's background, and while other logos fade to black or into the logo's background color before it starts, the rock guitar yells at you at high volume before the disclaimer's text has even reached the top of the screen. The flying yellow box interrupts the warning text because it just can't wait any longer to zoom in and violate you. Why were videotape logos constantly wanting to jump scare the innocent little 6-year-olds watching them before the show has even started showing its first episode? It's almost like they don't want them to watch their tape ever again, because they don't want to cement themselves into watching such a scary, loud, threatening logo ever again. But their parents had already spent the money on our tape anyway, so who cares? We're still gonna be able to pay the bills. Criminal! This logo is okay. I mean, after the preschool side of Tempo Video had to scare the toddlers with their general logo, they had to make a much more friendlier one, motivating the kids to actually keep watching the Mr. Men alphabet tape their parents wasted money on. It may look a bit intimidating at first, with the closed box sitting in a dark room with a single dim spotlight, but then the room lightens up more and more as the camera moves, revealing a playroom with a different pattern design for each wall of the room, as if the decorators couldn't make up their minds, and some crayons that look way too big when compared to the ball and the jack-in-the-box. Speaking of whom, the box jiggles about a few times, as if the jack inside is sentient, wanting to be let out for some fresh air. but the way he pops out of the box is not as sudden or harsh as those toys actually are. It's much slower and softer here, accompanied by the 30-second musical piece with sparkles, a metal xylophone, and a choir at the very end. The choir makes me think that this Jack-in-the-Box is the god of the playroom or something. Like the nursery kids always pray to him before snack time or something. I mean, if he's the face of the distributor's logo, Jack here must be really important, right? Oh look, we're back with the company that made the Teletubbies. I swear to God, I wasn't expecting the string of connections between the last few videos to be this long. I had to talk about Ragdoll Productions at some point today because I grew up with their logos, that's all. Anyway, there are 3 Ragdoll logos that I can remember watching in my childhood. This one from Rosie and Jim, which had the show's theme song over it in the John Cunliffe episodes.
The end.
But it had its own logo jingle for the rest of the show's run. The slightly creepy thing about its use in this show is that it comes in at the very end, after the theme song ends, in a moment of complete silence, and you aren't even expecting anything else. And then the slightly creepy music suddenly builds up and plays with no fade in. And honestly, the creepiness honestly depends on the logo's picture. In the Pat Hutchins episodes, it looks more detailed, more pencil sketchings, and it makes the ragdoll itself look kinda creepy with its Coraline-esque button eyes. If I ever wanted an appealing ragdoll design, I'll go with Ragatha any day. But by the Neil Brewer episodes, they overly simplified the logo's design into something that looks less like Ragatha and more like a normal ginger-haired child with creepy eyes with massive pupils in their pajamas waving to someone off screen. And where is the candle that it was originally holding? It made sense for the doll's arm to be at that pose before because they were holding a candle to light the dark hallway of the Victorian house the doll came from, as I like to imagine. But here, they're just punching their palm into the air, and a graphic shows up behind them while they punch. Either that, or they're doing it directly in front of the sunlight. The second version of the logo that I can distinctly remember, and not in a good way, is at the very end of the only Tots TV video I had, Animal Adventures. It's the end of their adventure, they have rebuilt their Noah's Ark playset, and their charming little theme song is playing to end the tape. But what's creepy about it is that it doesn't know when to end and to just show the company logo. At first, you would think the song would end here. That would be fine for the toddlers watching, but then... Jesus, I wouldn't think it would just bang back in here and keep on going after a moment of silence. Jump scare! And then the tape just keeps on filming on the Tots cottage instead of just fading to black. And then suddenly...
You have been watching the Tots Animal Adventures, one of 4 new Tots videos made specially for the Ragdoll video collection.
An unexpected off-screen narrator comes in behind you and randomly informs you about the other Tots videotapes that they had on sale at the time, while they just continue showing you footage of the cottage in utter silence. No text, no colored background, no pictures of the other tapes that he's advertising. They just stare at the cottage after the puppeteers huddle in together inside until the cameraman eventually decides to yell, "Cut!" I almost keep expecting one of them to emerge from the door asking, "Are we done yet?" Or, given how creepy and unexpected all of this is, I expect a dark, mysterious man coming out of the door and staring at the camera, staring at you with thin red eyes as the narrator is talking, as if he is the narrator. He stares at you menacingly, until it finally fades to black. And by the time the Ragdoll logo finally appears, I'm already creeped out. I can't really comment on it because I've already got visions of analog horror in my head. And the third version is, thankfully, a lot more child-friendly. I only ever saw it at the end of Brum episodes on CBeebies. You know, the wacky, jazzy superhero take on Brum, with that catchy as fuck credits theme. It has an invisible child scribbling an orange crayon on a wall completely painted in yellow, while a series of slide whistles play, representing the wacky, out-of-control squiggles. But we then see that the orange scribbles are of the ragdoll's hair, while a black crayon draws its better-looking eyes and a smiley mouth. We're gradually seeing less and less of the Ragdoll character. They went from a detailed pencil drawing to a simplified look with a missing candle, and now only the face remains. It won't be long until the doll is completely erased from existence, leaving only the text. Besides from that, I think this is the perfect representation of the studio in the 2000s. They were producing more outlandish, wackier, and bizarre shows around this time. In the 90s, they've made soft, comforting shows like The Old Brum, Tots TV, and Rosie and Jim, whilst nowadays they were making The New Brum, Teletubbies, and Tronji. So this logo, which has its very silly slide whistles accompanying the frantic, looping squiggles of the mascot's hair, is a perfect representation of what the company was around this time. So, for that, I'd say it's the better one of these logos. At least this one doesn't remind me of analog horror videos.